There's a 5-step process that inspired me by actually Dr. Carolyn Leaf when I first came across her work, probably 5 or 6 years ago. And that 5-step process I read about, I absorbed, and I made a few tweaks to it in my own life that I want to share with all of you today, because it's what I share with my clients as well. So you've got a little inside tip and scoop today. So the first step is to just gather awareness of what's going on in your mind at the moment. And the way I think about it these days, and the way I talk about it with my clients these days, is we want to identify what the thinking is in our brain. And there's a couple ways we can do that I'll get to in a few minutes. But the first thing is we just want to be aware of what is going on in our brain at any given moment. We have things like televisions, podcasts, radio, scrolling on social media that are constantly distracting us so that we're not aware of what we're actually thinking. We're just kind of reacting in the moment and feeling. And when we take a moment to really gather that awareness of what in the world is going on in my brain right now, it really starts to become illuminating and incredibly instructive about, does that even serve me? Why am I even thinking that? So the awareness is key. And then the second thing have you do with what you've just become aware on is I want you to start reflecting on it. And I want you to ask yourself things like, for instance, when clients come to me, a lot of people have a limiting belief of I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy. And we talk about that's a thought that we have in our head. And we start investigating, is that even true? And many times they can give me a number of situations and circumstances that would seem to indicate that this is true. But because we've already gathered the awareness and we're in the process of reflecting, then we can move on to the point of, you know what? Let's see if we can also collect some evidence to the contrary. What can you think of some times in your life when you were enough, when you were worthy? And lo and behold, they start giving me the examples. And there's reasons why those two things happen, but we can go into that in another video. As we start collecting the evidence around, are these thoughts even true or not true? We can move into what do we do with them next? And in Dr. Leaf's work, she demonstrates, she's got a whole bunch of books, everybody. Go out, dive into them, really absorb them and enjoy them. So after you've gathered awareness, after you've reflected on the truth or the veracity of these thoughts, you're going to start writing them down. I know. So for those of you who are like, I don't like to journal, I was that person. You don't even have to journal. You just get a piece of paper out and you do a brain dump. Just what am I thinking? What am I thinking? And then you start looking to see, are there patterns there? How many things are going on in my mind that I wasn't even aware of? There's, as you're writing, they're just showing up. So that's where you're not necessarily journaling, you're just brain dumping. So you can see on paper what exactly is in your mind. You won't believe how powerful and how transformative that is. You don't even need to call it journaling to get yourself to do it. It'll take you 60 to 90 seconds to get minimum 10 things on the page. Guarantee you that one. After you've written all those things down, you want to do what Dr. Leaf would call a recheck. And I just think of it as, let me look and see if I can identify some patterns here. And also, once things are on paper, it's also easier to start identifying, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I was thinking that. And why am I thinking that? Because it's not even true. So you can start examining the veracity of the things that you're telling yourself on a daily basis just by looking on what you've written down on a piece of paper. You can do it on your laptop or tablet and type it out, but I would say handwrite it out, because there's some specific reasons going on in the brain when you're physically writing and looking at it that will help spur even more of those thoughts to come out of you. That's for another video. So the last thing I would have you do is what Dr. Leaf would call active reach. And in my world, I talk to my clients about, now that you understand the thoughts that are occurring on a regular basis, now that you have some evidence for the truth around those thoughts, and you've collected a whole bunch of evidence about why a thought is true or not true, what are some thoughts you can engage in on a daily basis that are true, that will start to help you rewire your brain to start looking for the things that you really want in life. And in my world, we talk about that being a decision matrix. So you write down the old limiting belief, I'm not good enough. You write down the new empowering belief, I am good enough. And then you start writing down in your decision matrix every single reason why you're good enough. And if you can't find the quantity that you want in your own life, you can look to other people's lives, because if it's true for them, it is also true for you. But I guarantee you, there are going to be all kinds of times in your life where you were good enough. You've just been focused for a number of reasons on all the reasons why you weren't. So I hope that helps you understand what we work on here at Kathryn Traff Coaching with clients. Is there's a 5-step process that we go through around identifying thought patterns that trip you up and keep you from being created into the person who God created you to be. And then a lot of it is inspired by Dr. Carolyn Leaf. Full disclosure, guys, I am an absolute neuroscience nerd. I spent 20 plus years working in the field of neuroscience, and I spent 17 of those years working with neurologists and neurosurgeons and neuroscientists. So I have some of those people in my life, and that's why I really admire and respect Dr. Leaf. There's a whole bunch of other people I follow as well. But I want to encourage you today to sit down, gather the awareness around what's actually happening in your head, write it down, question it. Is it true? Come up with some evidence for why a new decision, maybe because I have a lot of women clients who come to me and say there's no good men out there. And I have them write down there are all kinds of good men all around me. And then we go through the evidence of tell me some times in your life where there have been really good men who surrounded you. And they find it every time. So I want to encourage you to go through that process, work that decision matrix on a daily basis. And the last thing I'll leave you with is Dr. Leaf talks very specifically in her research that by day 63, there is brain scan imaging data now to show, number one, how incredibly powerful your thoughts are. But number two, that when you engage in this behavior on a daily basis, you do need to be consistent. It needs to be minimum 5 days a week. The quantity of time doesn't matter, right? It can be a couple minutes, but it needs to be consistently done every day. By day 63, on the brain scan images, you can see the beginnings of this new neural tract that you're building in your brain. It's really exciting. And it's also proof that our thoughts literally create the neural connections in our brain. So the last thing I want to leave you with is take some time to do that for yourself. This is self-care when you do that for yourself. And as you go through it, I want you to think to yourself, I want you to hear my voice, I believe in you.